That's San Francisco. Took that shot out of the window of a plane as we were leaving on a day when it was sunny, rare day when it wasn't foggy. Well, we would say rare in the old days, but now it's much more common to have clear days like this. Maybe now it's only 35% or 40% of the year that is the cool gray city of love in the 50s, and how I like it. We have more days in the 70 degrees Fahrenheit now, and the average temp is much higher into the 60s, I think. But I did get lucky on this day. There's Golden Gate Park, Golden Gate Bridge, the Oakland Bay Bridge, Oakland, Berkeley, Richmond. It's pretty decent detail on this, despite the chromatic sort of range being very narrow. It's a very narrow, not monochromatic, but I'm shooting through the window of a plane. I'm bent over backwards. I'm doing this. I'm trying to get this. And it was the one shot that I got. The city's changing a lot now, not just the weather, the political attitude. With DJT in the White House and now Mayor Lurie in the mayor's office, it feels like shifting grounds. Alliances are maybe being made. People are being tossed out. I've seen that. The whole of the beach area has changed. All of the homeless that used to be there and then camped with trailers parked just there near the beach. All that's gone, and there are white stripes painted for cars to be able to park. And the city passed the vote, despite the fact that, okay, so everybody out here in the Sunset and everybody over there in the Richmond, they voted against the idea of closing the Great Highway to traffic, car traffic, and making a park, because it is a specifically useful road, traffic-wise, where we live in these neighborhoods. So they voted 60% or higher no on the proposition. But the rest of the city, which has a kind of, well, some people know what they're doing. Others are just, I don't know, delusional, quite frankly. Have no knowledge of what it's like to live out in these two neighborhoods, and just said park instead of cars. Yes, go for the park instead of cars. And the city passed this thing. So one of the great points of tension in the city right now is the fact that Great Highway is closed. And so when I got back from spring training, I drove up, and that was the first time I had experienced driving back into the neighborhood with it being closed, and it was awk. I ended up kind of taking one of the side streets with speed bumps on it for 16 blocks and contemplating this change as a driver. But it will be the new park. They had a naming thing in the paper. Pick from these names. Will it be called the Sunset Dunes? Will it be called the Pacific Palisade? They have all these name choices. So this is a real thing. It has happened. My car and the garage that I rent is literally right there. So I now have to go like everybody else. Up to Sunset, up to 19th. That's a big change right now that's a source of some tension. But there are going to be big changes down here soon anyway. This construction, which has gone on forever near the zoo, it feels like, is finally coming to an end. That's going to change traffic at that end of the situation. I just got this bookshelf. I like it. It's like a crisscross type thing. And I like how it breaks up the books into chunks instead of like this. Because if you notice, these are alphabetical by author, my fiction books, and these are nonfiction books, except for that, which I just bought. Oh yeah, that's Three Body Problem. So when I read Three Body Problem, I read it in 2016 May, I think it was. Might have been 2017, whenever the pub date of Death's End was. All three were out already. But this was published by Tor out of New York, the imprint. And they did one a year. So Americans or English readers got this one, then a year later this one, then a year later this one. It was a point of huge criticism I had about it, and many people did. Because how would you remember even, or like it's a year later? And they were just milking these as releases for them in the field. It was a big deal, I suppose. So I did not have to endure that, because what I did instead was I went to the library. And I went to the library after the pub date of this one. What was it, 2017? I said 16, right? Yeah, 16. So the export copy was 2016 that Tor published. This one. So in May of 2016, what I did was I got all 3 books and read them all at once. So I would get it the way that the Germans got it, because we all heard about how the Germans got Three Body, Dark Forest, and Death's End as one big thing in their translation, and how much better it was that way. And then we read about and learned about how Cixin Liu had written it. Liu Cixin had written it. Why doesn't that fit? Had written it as a serialized work, right? It had been in pieces before, people said. So then you started to wonder, what was it like to read this book narratively, once a week or something, or once a month? I don't know why that doesn't go back in there. Maybe I'll just take that out. So, Tor published this as 3 books over 3 years. I guess if this was 15 and 14, 2014, 2015, 2016. I picked it up in May of 2016 from the library so I could get all 3 at once and read it, which I did. And I reviewed it on one of my WordPress blogs that nobody goes to. This one is called MTK Forever. mtkforever.wordpress.blog. You can also find it on mtkarthik.org, because I think I transferred that particular one over. My review of this book, then this book as a review of the whole thing. Which, like all my reviews, they're not spoilers. They're more like just discussion of feelings and emotions and thoughts that I had, and ways that I related with the work. Well, so then, since then, of course, the book has become extremely popular and read all over the world and produced into at least 2 different types of multimedia. The one that I have seen is the one produced by the Chinese company Tencent, and that is available now on Prime for free, well, if you have Prime, and on YouTube. It's serialized as 30 episodes on YouTube, and it is Three Body Problem and a little bit of Dark Forest, so it goes up to about here so far, the Tencent one. You're reading subtitles, of course, and I liked it very much, though it's very Chinese, I think, Asian in style. I liked it very much. I don't want to give anything away. Anyway, and I haven't seen the Netflix one, or the Western one that was filmed in Canada that everybody has big stars and everything. But I heard some negative things about it, that they made some principal changes to make the story somehow more comprehensible or something. I don't know. I went to a couple of subreddits on this because I've been thinking about watching the Western one, but I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to wait for the Tencent version to come out and watch that. That's what I'm going to do. Because I think they will have done what the Chinese often do, is, like in the case of the first one, it seems a bit, there's some things about it that are clunky as a sci-fi movie. But they will learn from that, and then the next one will be exponentially better. You know who else did that? George Lucas. I mean, everybody who's ever done anything, that's how you do it, right? Up to Jordan Peele today, as it were. That's how, when you get a chance to make large projects, you learn from the feedback so that you can translate that into the next major chunk. Well, so I didn't have the books. I didn't own the books because I read them originally that way. And now I've been commenting on the books, and I've been talking to lots of people about the books, and I've been reading about many people's opinions about the books. And I thought to myself, you better have these on your shelf because you need to start referring to them. It's been a while since you've read it, and just watching the program is not the same thing. And so now I have picked up the box set, which I'm not going to let you keep the box, I don't think. We're going to have to figure out how to do this. We've got fiction on the nonfiction shelf. Doesn't matter. Anyway, Cixin Yu, Three Body Problem, Dark Force, Death's End, Alien Contact, First Contact. I once did a drawing about this. I wonder where that is. Might be over here. We were talking about the unmitigated power that comes with being an American. Just to be American is like this thing now. You can't even... It feels in some ways extra national to be American now. Yeah, so this was a drawing I made many years ago. An alien's first glimpse could be its last, was this drawing I made. You know, say he's got all these guns and weapons and he's pointing a gun at him. I also did a symbology drawing back then. Look at that crazy thing. So much symbology. So many symbols on that. Isn't that right? Look at all the symbols on that thing. This side's pretty interesting on that, actually. Telecommunications and so on. What does that say? And the International Space Station in orbit. I just watched a program about the Chinese space station, which was Tiangong, which looks incredible, and learned quite a bit about their plans for space, which are elaborate and deep. They have had a long, like many of the things that they do, a planned multi-stage approach is what the Chinese will be engaging in. Right, why did I begin this? Nobody knows. Oh, I wanted to show you this. This is the origin of life. Chart. And these are fossils of ammonites, which are hundreds of millions of years old, tens of millions of years old. Ammonites. And I started taking photographs of mine and placing them around this, where different creatures are. Raptrix sambacaria in Kamakura, Japan, near the insects. This really beautiful passion flower. Haliaster indus near the birds. The humans ends in my dad. I think that's a good... If you go like this, and you go up to my dad, you're pretty much at the top of the brains part. And then the birds goes into this nice chart about the birds. Yeah, so I'm working on this little installation now. Right, so installation in progress, bookshelf. This is MTK, and studio life is what you're looking at now.